Hey everybody, this is Ray Flick, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool, welcoming you to our review of Freeform Siren, fantasy sci-fi mermaid drama series that is starting on Thursday, March 29th, which is appropriately enough, International Mermaid Day. It's going to be premiering with a 2-hour event starting at 8 o'clock Eastern Time with the pilot episode as well as the second episode of the season, The Lure. We're going to be taking a look at the pilot episode, which we're lucky enough to get access to, and I'd like to thank the folks over at ABC and Disney for that. A little behind the scenes before I get started. We were lucky enough to have a chance to sit down and interview one of the main leads from the series, Eileen Powell, who plays Rin. And it's one of those things when you get a chance to interview somebody before a show, you really hope that the show turns out to be good, or at least solid enough for you to move forward on. I am pleased to say that that is the case with Siren. First, it was a great interview, so let me just do a cheap plug right now and say check it out on bleedingcool.com. I think we may also be linking it down below here. But also, let me just say that Siren is a really good, strong start. Now, I know a lot of people, when they hear Mermaid, the jokes already start, and I even make reference to it too, the Ariel from Little Mermaid jokes, or the Daryl Hannah, Tom Hanks Splash jokes, things like that. Get those out of your mind. The way they approach the mythology of mermaids, and just in the pilot, the way it's set up, has already got me interested in tuning in. And I've used the tagline, and I'm going to try not to beat this to death after my review of this of the pilot episode, is you got to really think less Little Mermaid, less Splash, and really think more on lines of Teen Wolf and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, I'm saying Teen Wolf because I see a lot of comparisons, and I mean that in a good way, because I feel like Teen Wolf was one of those series that really grew and developed its own character and mythology. It may not have been necessarily a series that I bought into, but I know a lot of people did, and I understood why. I say Buffy the Vampire Slayer because there's a lot of potential for it to get to that level. Let me tell you why, and there are really two main things that I looked for in this pilot episode. Two big things. Characters, and also, have you set me up with some interesting plot and development? For those of you who've seen my reviews before, you know I talk about something called the 6-episode rule, that most shows should be given a chance if they start off strong. 6 episodes to see where they're going. It's an argument we can apply to a lot of series that we love now, and we look back and go, oh, you know, I'm kind of glad I gave that a chance. Buffy's a perfect example. The Walking Dead's a perfect example. I would even say with Breaking Bad, as much as I've always loved every episode, I think it fits in that rule too. So the two criteria I look for in this show, one has to do with characters and the cast, and I want to make sure I get this right. We have Alex Rowe as Ben, marine biologist, and also a member of the richest family in the town. So you see where there's going to be some dynamics set up there. You have Maddie, who's played for, and I'm checking my cheat sheets because I know I'm going to destroy people's pronunciations, so I apologize in advance. Fola Evans-Akingbola as Maddie, marine biologist, and also Ben's girlfriend. We've got Ian Verdum as the deep-sea fisherman. We've got Irina Owen as Helen, and we've got Sibingale Melambo as Donna Rin's sister. All of these are great characters. Ben, for example, I was expecting to be annoyed by him, and I wasn't. You know, you get the sense of where this may potentially play out with, you know, living down, quote unquote, you know, being seen as the rich boy of the town, and also being the marine biologist. You see that, you know, some conflicts that may come into play between Ben and Maddie, but again, Maddie's not coming across as the typical, oh, she's the girlfriend and she's jealous and everything. We already see right from the start Maddie's going to be her own strong character, which, again, great start for the show. In regards to Ian Verdum, in regards to Rena Owen, we see really strong characters being developed. I especially want to bring up Rena Owen's Helen, because a lot of these shows, when they have the person who's the eccentric or who's the store owner or who knows the lore of the town, they kind of write them off as like being the crazy until eventually everybody believes them. I like with this show, it's like, I don't know, it kind of, if I'm going to use the Buffy analogy, I feel like Helen has that possibility of almost being kind of like a Giles type character. So I really love what we've seen. Mambo's presence as Donna from in the very beginning, and I'll talk about that in a second, very strong presence and gave us a very strong understanding of how mermaids are going to be approached in this show. But you'll notice I've talked about all these characters, but if I've got to see, you know, one thing about Eric Wald's and Dean White's show that really makes it, and what makes most of these shows is, you know, again, whether it's Teen Wolf, whether it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, whether it's, you know, Superstition, the Vampire Diaries, what makes these shows is the main character, the one that the show is built around. And I want to give Eileen Powell a lot of credit as Rin, because her portrayal as a mermaid and the way the creators are portraying mermaids in this episode is, for lack of a better phrase, badass. You know, it's not that she doesn't approach Rin as the innocent who is in this new world, but there's a viciousness to Rin at the drop of a hat. There is an understanding we see both from Rin in the episode and even the glimpses we see of Dawn in the beginning, again, which we'll talk about, that these mermaids are no joke, that they are not nice, pleasant, animated little things. Rin is not somebody who's going to be who's going to be forsaking her dad anytime soon. The portrayal of it and the fact that especially Liam Powell is able to portray Rin in such an innocent manner, but not innocent as in I don't know what's going on. Innocent as in I realize this is new, I'm stumbling my way through, but that she's constantly learning and picking up. And that's what I love. The progression we see in her learning. That these aren't dumb creatures. They're different from humans, but again, we work on this assumption that means that they're somehow lesser. And we really see in Rin, it's like, no, we're going to be dealing with something and a race of something that is going to be a big, big danger to the people of Bristol Cove. So again, character-wise, I see a lot of potential. I would love to see a little bit more lightheartedness as the series goes along. One of the things that came up in the interview with Liam Powell, which I loved, was how much camaraderie the cast had offset and between shoots of episodes and things like that. So I hope to see that a lot more and a little tongue-in-cheek. Again, I think there are a lot of potential with these characters that you can see some really great interactions going on with them. Then the next thing I want to get to, we've talked about characters. I've touched a little bit upon how I love they're making mermaids look like the mythological creatures they should be and not kind of the nice, sweet, pleasant stereotype that they've gotten in the past. So we discussed that. Now I want to get briefly into the storyline, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers so there's not going to be anything huge. But we do know, for example, the show is set in Bristol Cove, Washington, which has a lore and a legacy and a history with mermaids. The lore being essentially that the town founder fell in love with a mermaid and has ever since then been known as the mermaid capital of the world. Great, clear setup where things are obviously going to happen. They even say in the taglines about how the town is going to have to face and live up and potentially live down its history of how to interact with mermaids. So I'm very curious to see what happened when the founder and the mermaid kind of met up, if we had kind of a Romeo and Juliet type thing. Again, really great setup. Even from the very beginning, we have an overarching mythology just from the town itself. But episode begins with a group of fishermen who are out doing deep sea fishing, and they find a creature, and that creature happens to be Donna, who is, we find out, is Rin's sister. This is where we get to see just how badass mermaids are being portrayed, because their tails and claws and everything else that allows them to react in self-defense or in offense ends up injuring one of the fishermen in the process. So clearly it gets reported, the government swoops in, the government takes the creature, takes the injured fisherman, and they disappear. Very, very ooga booga type scary premise here. But again, now that we've got the fantasy overarching mythology with the town, now we've got the government conspiracy, so we throw a little X-Files into the mix, so we've got that going on too. Also, Roswell gives me a little bit, and I've touched upon that too, but I want to say that too, got a little bit of a Roswell vibe there. So now that we have that going on, we go back to the town of Bristol Cove, and just in the time when this is going on, we have a mysterious visitor in the form of Rin, who shows up into town, who, as we again learn, is on the search for her sister. And you know this is just going to be the door that opens it up, everything that's been going on between the mermaid world and between the town. So we already see that set up, and that's where Ben comes in. Ben finds her wandering on the road. Ben takes her in, gets a quick lesson, real quick, on what she is, who she is, and what she could potentially be, which is, again, what I love about this episode is people don't suspend common sense. It's not that people are eager to believe or anything like that, but there's also not this television cliche of you have to beat people over the head to almost near to death with facts and everything to get them to understand. Again, there's logic in this pilot. So again, I was a really big fan of that also. So what we're essentially finding is we got this stranger, we've got this connection that's going on. Ben finds out what happened with the fisherman out there, and the reason why he finds out is because one of the fishermen who's his friend is now been taken to a government facility, and he's missing also. So now we've essentially got Rin, this mermaid, with Ben, who's now coordinating with Maddie, his girlfriend and co-marine biologist, about what to do, and it's also what essentially are they going to do about their friend who's in the government facility and how Rin can get to find her sister. So we have a lot of stuff that's set up in this episode right from the very beginning, so it was already a great start. And then we get a chance for them to introduce Helen, which I thought was awesome, because again, I think she's going to be kind of the the sage, the mentor, the person who is going to be, you know, the one who steps in and has all the knowledge base about about what's going on, about the town history, and who's going to have a very, very fascinating backstory. So again, pilot episode, what I look for in a pilot episode, did it set up an interest in me to continue on? It absolutely did. There is a lot of potential for this series, and I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what to think going into it. I wasn't even sure if I was going to review it. But it went in a number of directions I didn't think it would go, thankfully. How it's presenting the main creature, the main mythology, the mermaids, I think is just fantastic. It's just nice to see that presented more in accordance with lore as opposed to, you know, pop culture and animation. I love that. So I give Freeform a lot of credit. I think Siren is off to a very, very strong start. As a pilot episode, if I was doing it on a 1 to 10 scale, I would give this, I'd say, a 7, which I think is strong. Now, in the context of a season, that can ebb and flow depending. But again, I think it's a strong start. My recommendation, concentrate heavy on characters. Give us some of the mythology, but don't beat us over the head with mythology. And not so much mythology. Standalone episodes work really well. And some fun, again, interaction, conversation, just to humanize the characters as much as possible is going to go a long way. Especially during those early episodes of Buffy, which I refer back to, where the dialogue and the characterization helped kind of gloss over some early cheese in the beginning. I mean, we all remember that robot episode, which I don't try to remember much. But again, Freeform, fantastic job. I think Siren is very strong. I give it a solid 7. You guys should definitely check it out. That's happening Thursday, which if you're watching this today, that would actually be tonight. 2 hours. So you're going to get a chance to watch the pilot, and you'll also be able to watch the second episode of the season, The Lore. So I think you're going to enjoy it. Take a look. Let me know what you think. In a couple weeks, even let me know what you think. If you thought I was wrong, please let me know. But if you love it, hey, little props never hurt either. My name is Ray Fluck, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. I will see you on bleedingcool.com heading into the weekend. Hopefully see you guys for Walking Dead live blog on Sunday. And that's it. Hope you have a good one, folks. Enjoy.